welcome to the first video for the Crown District. All your news about the Washington Wizards in the NBA Eastern Conference. My name is Yakwitz, and I am the founder and creator of the Crown District. And I thank you all for coming in and listening to what I have to say. So, also please ignore that of my videos about the national anthems. That was what I used to do, but now I've kind of gained interest in NBA, particularly Washington Wizards, as they're my favorite team in the NBA, and so I'll be creating a YouTube channel about them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we currently had a game a couple of days ago against the Hornets, where we unfortunately lost 109-126. It was a close game, with the Wizards leading by 7 points in the first and second quarters. However, the Hornets managed to deliver a really good comeback and won the game by about 18. However, I feel like that to start off, really, I feel like that going to the game, we were really confident. And the Hornets aren't really that great, Obviously, they had some good games and stuff, but the Wizards also aren't that great too. So, going to the game, I thought that it was going to be tight one. But I definitely thought that the Wizards were going to pull out the win. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, obviously. And today, we'll be going into that a little bit. And to start off, let's talk about the first quarter. In the beginning, obviously we maybe lose by 2 a little bit, which wasn't bad. Obviously you're gonna get that in NBA games, basketball. But I really liked how we were kind of aggressive and we were really kind of blitzing their own net, the Hornets net. And I do think that in the first and second quarters, we really were locking it. Really were committed to winning the game. We weren't giving them any chances. LaMelo Ball wasn't really doing his best too, and CJ, Bob, Keeson, they're all doing their top performance, I feel like. However, going into the second half, in the third and fourth quarters, I do think that's when we kind of faltered and kind of lost a little bit. We had a narrow lead, maybe by like 46 points, and then for some reason we decided to ball in, and then the Hornets were really getting us back. I do feel like they were a little bit lucky too with all that, with all the 3-pointers, because you have Khan, and he was doing really good and scoring 3-pointers, and Malo Ball obviously too. And unfortunately, I feel like we also tried doing the same, high risk, high reward, go big or go home. Obviously, we went at home, and I felt like that most of the 3-pointers we tried to attempt in the third and fourth quarters, we just could not do it. And despite keep missing, we kept insisting on doing it, and didn't pay off, and I feel like that moment, I definitely think that we should have played it safer a little bit, maybe a little bit defensive, but also going in and kind of, taking advantage of mistakes that the Hornets did. But obviously, we didn't do that, and now we're currently like 5-23. It's pretty overwhelming, I have to say, for the result. We definitely could control the game. However, next game is against the Raptors tomorrow, or today, depending on when I release the video. And Raptors are also, are in the playoff spot, I believe. Yes, in 4th place. But they haven't had, that big a record too. They've won against Miami Heat, the Trailblazers, and then Milwaukee. But obviously, Trailblazers aren't that great, and Milwaukee, having a shaky season, I believe too. But regardless, my heart says the Wizards are gonna win. However, my brain says otherwise. But I think I might have to lock it in for my prediction for the next game of the Washington Wizards. I do think that Raptors will be getting the win, unfortunately. But I do hope I improved wrong. I do hope that the Wizards can start to pick up, start to snowball that, win record, and hopefully, get some wins and stuff. But my standout player for the Hornets game, it's either between Bob and Keeson. Maybe Keeson, because, Keeson's been doing really good, I think, this season. And Bob as well, but Keeson has really just been fighting hard. And him being a sophomore, I believe, from college, I do think that he has a great potential, And I feel like if he keeps on doing this, keeps on bringing the form with him, I definitely do think that he is able to kind of will help us win some games. But also, I feel like Bob, wasn't that bad. The one major highlight, not really highlight, but scary thing was Bob having a little injury, I believe, where he kind of tripped and then he hit his head on the court. At that moment, it was kind of a little bit scary because you could get a pretty serious injury, that concussion and stuff. But I think luckily he's fine. He might be out. I don't think so. Hopefully not. But yeah, it was definitely a little bit scary to see that. And that's about it, really. Well, that I did in fact actually go to the game, my Washington at Hornets, and that was a really fun game. Really love how the Hornets changed the stadium, the Spectrum Center, Spectrum Arena, whatever you want to call it. It's really nice, what they done. It's really clean, pristine. I loved it. The fan support from the Hornets honestly is really nice, man. They had those kind of like trick shots, tricksters, the type of people like do like the black backflips to the baskets. That was really fun, and the lights show and stuff. But yeah, it was a really fun game. Props to Hornets for winning. Congratulations to them. And yeah, good fan support. Wishing them good success. Since I am currently residing in Charlotte, obviously that. But hopefully that going back to Washington, I do hope that we can kind of start to win some games. Especially the games against the Grizzlies again, the Suns. I definitely do think that the Grizzlies, we could definitely beat them again. And then just in the beginning of the new year, we go against the Brooklyn Nets. So I definitely think we can snag a win from them. We can definitely start to see ourselves slowly going up. And for that, that's about it. We have kind of a mixed group of games going into the new year. The Suns, 76ers, Magic, Timberwolves. I do think we might lose all those. They're really good teams. But against the Pelicans and against the Nets, like I said, and especially the Kings, Sacramento, and Clippers as well, I do think we can definitely pull off wins against it because looking at the standings, they have been doing a great. I believe that Sacramento is actually last in the Western Conference, and Pelicans also right behind them too, or like right above them, but barely. So I definitely think that if we really lock in, we'll do our best. I definitely think that we can really start to kind of get those results into the greens, getting the positive, all the wins kind of stuff. But it depends on how we do both defensively and both, attacking. But I've also heard some rumors, now going to the coaching staff, I heard some rumors about, well, not really rumors, but people saying that, Brian Keefe for coach to be sacked and fired. Me personally, in the beginning, I definitely was thinking about that, he's been not really proving himself a lot, but I still have a little bit of faith, it's a difficult squad, it's a little new. Obviously, we lost Poole, and then CJ Alfie is getting a little bit older, So I do think that maybe give him some time, but if we don't see results pop up, I do think it could be a moment, and that could be a realistic vision where Keefe might be sacked and maybe might be getting closer to that moment. However, if he starts to really gain those results, really start to bring us up, I do think, he has a chance to keep his job. But once again, depends on how good we do. We just have to look as a team, and just if we're losing, we shouldn't give up. Most games that when we're losing, we ball immediately and we give up. Like we should not be doing it. We should be fighting hard all the way into the final buzzer, and just like scoring as much as we can, much points as we can. And just having that fighting spirit, because I feel like we give up too easy, unfortunately. But obviously, it's kind of come back, in basketball once you, start like losing a lot because, snowballs and try to kind of push them back. But, we still have faith, I think, we gotta believe, do good, and just, pick up a head and forget about the Hornets game and focus now on the game against the Raptors. But I think that's going to conclude for the video. I know it's a little bit short, obviously, but it is my first video for the channel. I'm still really a tad bit new to NBA, so I'm gonna be kind of picking up on the terminology. But if you guys would like, I'm probably gonna give my score prediction for the Raptors game versus the Wizards. I think it might be a close one, but I might have the edge. Toronto Raptors, I do think are gonna be winning 126. And for the Washington Wizards, they're going to be scoring 108, A little far, yeah, maybe like 18 points, 18 points win for the Raptors. But like I said, do hope Wizards prove me wrong. Do hope we can get the win. I still have a little bit of faith left in me. And yeah, but that's my score prediction. But thank you everyone for watching my YouTube video and watching my channel. Hopefully you all enjoyed the little ideas and kind of little things I had to say. Feel free to give me any tips, maybe like speaking clearly, maybe some other tips about the video, or maybe about like the voice recording if you can. I am using a MacBook. I don't have really like a microphone, so it might be a little bit hard to kind of hear me. But overall, going back to this, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll try my best to post as much as I can. I normally post on the weekends, but I have Christmas break, winter break, from school. So I was able to make this video now. But I hope you all have a great day or night, and hopefully we can get the win. Goodbye.